America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker with the Job Creators Network, and joining us today is Mark Lynch, a candidate for the United States Senate from South Carolina. Mark is challenging longtime incumbent Senator Lindsey Graham and is making the case that South Carolina voters need a new conservative voice focused on economic growth, government accountability, and protecting the interests of working families and small businesses. Mark, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on today, Elaine.
Well, I was really intrigued by your background. Running for Senate obviously is, a big, statewide race, big campaign to take on. But I thought we could start a little bit and talk about your background. At Job Creators Network, we're a small business advocacy organization, and we really focus on policies that help small businesses. And I love talking to small business owners about their challenges. And since you are a small business owner and have been in the family business, Jeff Lynch Appliance, your dad started the business. Tell us a little bit about that and growing up in a small business household.
Yes. My dad started our company in 1951, 74 years ago. I started coming to the store and hanging out with him when I was 5 or 6 years old in the way, whatever, and later started learning how to sell batteries at the little counter for customers and things like that, sweeping floors and cleaning the restrooms, and then later came into delivery and installation, and after school went into sales and started learning the back office and buying and advertising and all the things that we do here. And we formed a buy-sell agreement in 1983. And then in 1985, I took over and started running the company. In the last 40 years, our business has grown 35 times. And we've been debt-free since 1999, personally and corporately. And, God's the owner, and we understand that. And he knows how to provide what a business needs to grow, and the right staff and the right culture and everything. We have a chapel in our business, and we teach the Word of God 2 days a week in the mornings from 8:05 to 8:35 when we start our day, because our employees are our most important assets. And in our business, back when we formed a buy-sell agreement, we had an appraisal done on our business. And when we got to the final number, the value of the company for me to buy, the IRS had a rule with a 35% negative multiplier on the value of the business because of the high risk nature of our industry. We're in the appliance, bedding, furniture, TV business, retail store.
Right.
And we compete against big box stores that have 3,000 locations in the country and economies of scale and a much bigger advertising approach than we have, and the money that's available for them to market themselves. And we've had to fight the companies like Sears and Roebuck and Lowe's and Home Depot, and some of the ones like Sears that aren't here anymore, Circuit City or H.H. Gregg or Montgomery Ward's. They've all come and gone, and we're in our 74th year. And it's a lot of work. It's hard. People say, how do you do that? It's hard work and a lot of sweat equity and paying attention to things and having good people that are willing to fight. And so we've been a David Goliath story in our business, and we've had to fight for every inch, and we've done great. And my son and daughter are third generation, and they're now transitioning into management and taking over and running the company. And so it's been crazy in our industry. It is tough, I'll tell you. Anyway, we're a survivor, and we've done well, and it's been fun and interesting, and we've learned a lot all along the way too. Stuff they don't ever teach some of this in college. It's just hands-on, day-to-day experience.
Yeah, there's not a lot of independent appliance retailers because of the big big box stores that have come in, but to continue that success in a community that your business has been in for over 70 years, what do you think's been the secret sauce of that success for so many decades?
I mean, knowing the competition, understanding everything about their business. Years ago, we got involved and joined a buying group where we all bring our interests together and have good networking, and keeps the manufacturer more accountable, and we can speak like one voice to the manufacturer, even though we all still run our stores independently with our own philosophies or whatever. It still brings together great ideas and networking. And when we were a lot smaller, when I came in, we had 5 employees. Now we have 110, and we worked out of a 3,200 square foot facility. Now we have 132,000 square feet, and we have like 17 big trucks instead of one pickup truck and 2 men. We have 35, 36 delivery installers now. It's a whole different operation, but sitting at a table in meetings, discussing with bigger dealers how they do what they do, gave us insights to that and gave us ideas, and we take 1 or 2 ideas back home and implement them into our business as we were growing. It helped us understand, what they had already gone through, and listening to their wisdom. And as we were growing the business and moving up at a different scale, because things started changing fast,
Well, I mean, being in business for the last, 7 decades or so, you've seen a lot of different the business has seen a lot of different presidential administrations. So a lot of different policies, obviously, a Carter administration, very different from a Reagan administration, to going through COVID. That's a lot of surviving as a small business. So I think you have
Right.
a great tale to tell. And your employees do too, because, they have lived through this as well and seen the growth in your business. Your community has seen it. So I love hearing these stories and amplifying it. And now you're focused on running for Senate in South Carolina against Lindsey Graham. And, the obvious question is, you've got this business and you're so successful, and you've got 110 people that you're employing, which is incredible to me. What made you decide to run for Senate?
People that have asked me and brought it to our attention, we would love for you to run. I started getting involved in this back in 2014, working in the national security space with some of the top security consultants in the country. John Guandolo, who was the head of the anti-terrorism division of the FBI for 13 years, after he was a Marine commander for 15 years. So he did that after 9/11 and was helping discern and know how to understand and fight the Islamic infiltration in America. And working with General Mike Flynn, who's given me his full endorsement, understanding that space, educating our police and sheriffs and FBI and SLED agents across 7 counties in the state. I met a lot of people. We gave informational, educational seminars in churches with 600 and 800 people attending, so the citizens could hear this information and learn about what was going on in our schools, in our seminaries, and government and county councils, and what the Islamic centers are about, and the training camps across America. We had one of the first ones in York, South Carolina. It's called Holy Islamville. It's a jihadist training camp on 40 acres, and it's been there over 30 years. Nobody's done a thing about it. So we started bringing all that information out and talking about the green charter schools and the other schools called Holy Rosary schools that are indoctrinating our children into Islam at an early age. And getting that information out, meeting state legislators, state senators, people got together, checked us out, vetted our family and our information, and said, you need to run for a state Senate seat. So I ran in 2020. We lost by 5%. That was the year of COVID. We couldn't even knock doors after March and have public debates or anything. There was no public meetings. Everything was closed down. with COVID. And but I almost won. Our campaign team met together and said, let's stay in the fight. We formed an organization called the United Patriots Alliance with all of our staff, and we started applying pressure to our South Carolina State House legislature and fighting bad bills and stopping bad bills from passing and helping support the Freedom Caucus members and getting good people elected so we can start working less from the outside and letting our people that are in office do their jobs, with the right people in there. And so people again ask over the last 4 years of all the work we've done, you're a successful businessman, you've been married 38 years, you're a family guy, you have fruit in your life, you're an ordained deacon at your church. When are you running again? And so we looked at the different options and everybody agreed with consultants that the best position for me would be United States Senate. We could remove a traitor out of Congress in Lindsey Graham and replace him with a true conservative patriot that'll hold the line and do what's right for America and for South Carolinians.
Well,
so we're here.
I always think having the small business experience is just such a feather in someone's cap when they're talking to people within their state or within their communities, districts. There's a relatability factor that is just so sincere. But as you talk to South Carolinians, what do you think is their biggest frustration right now?
Affordability, fighting this inflation at the gas pumps and the grocery stores and the prices of homes. Young people coming out of college are concerned, how are we ever going to have our own home? And how am I going to get a job? I'm competing against one student at Clemson, the Young Republicans Club there mentioned, I'm an engineering student. I graduate next year. I'm going to be competing against kids from India. Their country paid for their tuition. They'll never assimilate into this country's values, and they'll take my job for half the pay. And Mr. Lynch, I was born here, and we can't get jobs. So it's time to get rid of the H-1B visas and start putting America first again and bringing manufacturing back into America and hiring Americans for American jobs and supporting America. We've got crazy stuff going on. And this inflation cycle we're in, we're allowing big monopolies, just like our power company, Duke Power in South Carolina. They can raise the price to whatever they want to. And what are we going to do? We've got to break that apart, bring competition into these industries and get rid of the monopolies. Another one like BlackRock that's fixing the prices of our homes. We're fighting that in our industry, in our buying group. We had to fight with the Main Street Fairness Act because when the internet first came out, everybody was shipping stuff all over the country. People would come in our store, showroom us, get us to educate them on what kind of kitchen to buy, because it could be a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 experience. And so they were smart. They come here, they deal with our pros that have been working here over 20 years on average, and they know what they're talking about and put the information together that they needed for a big purchase like this. Then they'd go shop online and avoid paying sales tax. And if you can save $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 in sales taxes, they would. And back then, we talked to people like Jim DeMint about that, and he never understood. He said, Mark, we don't need another tax. I said, Jim, this is the sales tax. Nobody's collecting sales tax in the country.
I remember this. I remember this issue. I worked on this issue. Job Creators Network worked on this issue because we had retailers who came to us and said, this is killing us, and people aren't paying sales tax. And so why wouldn't you go online to save a few bucks in sales tax? It's not being reported. I absolutely remember this bill.
Right.
And so I remember the challenges that it posed for the brick and mortar stores. And, what a great issue that was to take on.
We had to fight the manufacturers to make sure they had distribution policies that wouldn't allow it and wouldn't allow a dealer to ship like over 100 miles out of his market, because it wasn't plus business for them. It was just avoiding the sales tax collection across the country. It was billions of dollars of uncollected taxes. And it was just a wild west for a couple of years till that got cleaned up.
Yeah, but that was a huge issue for people who had to, build stores and pay rent and, they had to pay for brick and mortar versus somebody, working out of their house online and just, not collecting sales tax and remitting it back to the states. And the states were losing out. I mean, there was a big issue across the board there. Nobody wants a new tax, but you had to have.
And the citizens, we had to remind the customers, keeping things local matters. This money stays here. It pays 110 employees here. It pays all of our manufacturers reps that call on us here in South Carolina. This money, when you're ordering from New York or Florida or Ohio, that money leaves the state. It doesn't help us. Why would you pay to help, defund your own community?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great issue to talk about to voters and help them understand, and connecting it back to your 110 employees and the 110 employees next door to your store and the next 110 employees and the jobs that it keeps in your community. Absolutely. What a great issue that was. I totally remember that fight and working with small businesses across the country. That was a great fight. You're taking on a giant, though. I mean, when you talk about David and Goliath, I mean, Lindsey Graham has been there for longer than I can possibly remember. Obviously, he's got very deep pockets as a result, and is able to raise huge amounts of money to take on an incumbent. What is your single best argument in why voters should look at the policy, look at you versus Lindsey Graham?
Right. Well, we call Republicans rhinos, Republican in name only. I call Lindsey a traitor, and I'll give you a definition of why it's okay to say that and use strong words like that. When we look at Lindsey's voting record, he has a conservative voting record of 43%, failing. Anything 69 and below is an F, right? His constitutional voting record is 57%. We can all look it up in the Freedom Index that gives us ability to measure and see the scorecard of our employees in Congress at the federal level or at the state level. And we can see an individual or all of them for any given amount of time, their whole lifetime average, or just a current session they're in. So Lindsey's failing South Carolinians and Americans with his voting score. He's not holding up to Republican values. Our forefathers, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, realized we're endowed by our Creator with certain God-given, unalienable rights. And the first right is the right to life. Lindsey claims he's pro-life. I have said this publicly. He's endorsed by 3 fake pro-life organizations, and I call them fake because if they agree to endorse him as 100% pro-life, when he's for murdering babies in the womb up to 15 weeks. And he also voted on a bill that put our money, taxpayers' money, into bondage with Obamacare and Medicare to pay Planned Parenthood for an abortion up until the moment before delivery in the 9th month in 9 states. That's not pro-life. I'm endorsed by Equal Protection South Carolina. They honor the 14th Amendment, where all people have the rights to life and to be protected. And the baby in the womb is another individual life God's created, and we don't have the right to kill it and murder it for any reason. I love Ray Comfort, who produced the 180 movie. It's a 30-minute documentary about life, and he's just out in the street asking questions and walking people through their thoughts about abortion. And about 20 minutes in, on the 4th or 5th question he's put them through, he finally asks them, and he takes the mic and presents it up close to their mouth and says, it's okay to murder another human being. When? When? And they come to their own answer. Never. Never's the answer. And so that's what we're about. Equal Protection South Carolina, Mark Corral and Matt Brock started that organization. Mark's a pastor and Matt's a solid fighter for the Constitution and pro-life advocate. They've endorsed me with Equal Protection South Carolina, and Abby Johnson, who's one of the most fiercest fighters for life in America. She endorsed me. And we're really, truly pro-life. That's what we are. And so people are tired of some of the games. They're tired of seeing our tax dollars go to pay to support the enemies of America. Breitbart news organization published an article a month ago and pointed out what we've been telling people forever. Lindsey Graham, through USAID and the IRI, International Republican Institute he served on, has funded over $122 million to NGOs working directly with Hamas and Al-Qaeda. You know, we've been teaching about Hamas and Al-Qaeda, and a lot of people finally came to terms with that word on October the 7th, a couple of years ago, with Hamas's invasion on Israel. And they now understand we don't have 8 heads. We're telling people the truth about what's going on with Islamic infiltration in our country, into the military and Congress and Homeland Security and our schools and seminaries and everything they've gotten into. And they haven't fired a shot yet. They've allowed us to take ourselves down by our own hands. But I'm not going to put up with a U.S. senator taking our tax dollars and paying the enemies of our country. That's treason. That's why I call him a traitor. And then in the fourth quarter of 25 and the first quarter of 26, as the head of the budget committee, he allocated another $5.67 billion each time, over $11 billion to fund illegal aliens' ability to live here. We don't have the money. We're bankrupt. We're $39 trillion in debt, but he's added another $5.67 billion twice to the debt to pay illegal aliens in here. If we're going to print money out of thin air, we could give it to America First needs, like our veterans and other causes that we have a great need for to fund, something that means something that'll give a return on Americans that are born here and living in this country, that fought and were willing to sacrifice their lives to serve and protect this great nation. Not people that snuck in here that are terrorist and drug cartel people and we don't even know who they are. You know, that brings up his amnesty nickname. That's one of his names, right? Gramnesty, because he's been with the Gang of Eight. He still is currently sponsored the bill to pass the Afghan Act that allowed 180,000 Afghan refugees to come into this country. And that was a bad decision because one of them from Washington State drove to Washington, D.C. and shot 2 of our National Guardsmen. And Sarah Beckstrom, when she was shot in the head, she died. And so these are bills, these are decisions being made by a guy that's a traitor to the country, that's all about Lindsey first and America and South Carolina last. And that's why I'm running. I'm trying to protect the future for our grandchildren and these young people getting out of college tomorrow and next year and the year after, that they'll have the ability to have the same opportunity I had growing up in this great country. We've got to fight because we're just a vote away from losing everything now. It's no longer a generation. It's close. And we've got to start fighting and stopping these crazy decisions in Congress. Every vote matters. And I'll bring a vote of a conservative values with God first, the Constitution second as the main filters to make my decisions that are true needs for the taxpayer and avoid all this reckless spending and sponsorship of enemies of our country.
So switching gears to economics, South Carolina has seen significant population growth and business growth, for that matter. What policies do you support that would help attract new businesses and kind of balance that with protecting, local businesses as well, like your own, of course?
Yeah. Well, to help the small businesses, because we've never received subsidies and government grants and money to help promote our business, and we've had to fight for every penny, and we're fighting against these big box stores that get all the help from government that are putting American family-owned businesses out of business. And we watched all that happen in 2020 with COVID. Big stores that have a lot more foot traffic could stay open during a COVID crisis. That didn't make any sense. You know, we had to fight the police and Ocean DHEC and tell them to get out of our stores. We don't wear masks here. We're not going to honor the mandate to be vaccinated. We're not social distancing, but they would let the big stores stay open and try to close us. And our governor closed our state 33 consecutive 2-week periods in a row. And small businesses had to fight. And, you know, I have to prove that we're essential.
Essential,
every business
yes.
is.
That was. I couldn't think of the word. I couldn't think of the word,
Right.
but we were told who was more important during COVID and who was essential
guess
and who
what?
wasn't. Yeah.
Right. Our government works for me and you. I don't work for them. They're there to represent us, and you don't get to come dictate to us what we can do in our business. I paid for this. I've worked hard. I've put sweat equity and time in growing this business with all of our great staff, not the government. Obama said, you didn't build that. We built it. What a crock all that is. I'm so sick of hearing all that. And so, yeah, the independent businesses who support families and raise families and support the local community, we're going to focus on protecting small businesses again. And South Carolina is already a wonderful place to raise a family. We have 4 wonderful seasons here. We're close to the lakes. We're close to the beach. We're close to the mountains. And it's like the #1 state to move to. But hey, we're full. We got to take a break. Everybody, you're going to have to try to move somewhere else because we got to catch up. Our infrastructure's way behind. We've got to fix our power issues and water and all of the issues we have with our roads and educational systems because we've had rapid growth that the county councils haven't handled it well across the state, and we've got to take a break. And we're fighting now the build out of data centers and solar farms, and that's not going to work either. We stopped one in Spartanburg County from getting started. We're tired of waking up and seeing hundreds of acres of trees bulldozed and red clay dust all in the air. And then we're finding out about it the hard way because some of our people on county council are developers, and they're taking the money and selling our land. And listen, there's no more land for sale to China. All that'll stop under my watch. We're not going to sell ourselves out of a place to stand and build our homes and our families' lives on. We're going to protect the state of South Carolina, and I'll work with our governor and make sure he has support from the federal level to protect what we have and what we've all worked so hard for, and bring back the ability to farm and grow cattle. We don't need to depend on other nations like Argentina for our beef and put our farmers out of business with all the red tape and the bureaucracy that's requiring them to go jump through hoops and pay all this money and stealing their margins of profit away to where it's not even profitable. Though you can't be a farmer anymore. We're losing our ability to produce our own food, and it's a national security threat. But my focus will be on America, but for South Carolinians, we've got to get that back, and I hope we get the right agricultural commissioner in our state elected this year that will bring those same kind of philosophies to the people of South Carolina and get the farming communities profitable again.
Well, I wish you luck. Can you tell everyone where they can go to learn more about you and your campaign?
Yes. We are at Lynch for Senate, spelled out FOR, lynchforsenate.com. You can go to Twitter, X at Mark Lynch SC, and go to our Facebook page at Mark Lynch SC. And how do you help us? This is how. Pray. It's just a few days away. We got to make sure we get everybody out to vote. There's a lot of attack ads on me and all the best people for governor and for attorney general. If you want to know who to vote for, look at the people that have the most chinks in their armor that are getting attacked, because all evil's coming up the best guys to stop us from getting in. And Lindsey Graham is focused solely on me out of the other 4 candidates that put their name in at the last minute because he knows I'm a threat. And we're seeing polls now. The Citadel in South Carolina ran a poll the other day, and Lindsey's below 50 at 46%, and I'm at 36, and there's 18 undecided. And all the news is correct. It looks like Lindsey's going to lose his seat this year, because he is. it's over. And he's desperate. And he's been lying about us and our family, putting out garbage over the past couple of months. And he's spent millions of dollars through these PACs trying to, to maintain his seat in power and the money he's involved in, but it's coming to an end. South Carolina's tired of being the embarrassment of America. Our state's always first. And America is asking, why does South Carolina keep electing this guy? My goodness. I hope South Carolina figures it out. And you know what? They have. Everywhere we're traveling, we're winning. Our message is winning. And South Carolina's going to have a new present to give America for its 250th birthday by the removal of a traitor in Congress and Lindsey Graham. Clean your office out, Lindsey.
Well, Mark, it's a beautiful state that you're in. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share your perspective on not only running for campaign, but running for Senate, but also on small businesses. I think you've got a great personal story to talk about. And thank you all for taking the time to join us on Main Street Matters. Main Street Matters is part of the Salem Podcast Network. New episodes debut every Wednesday and Friday. You can subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts from, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Bye for now.